Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you're doing good. Hello. Hi. It's been a hot minute since I've last done one of these videos. It feels like absolutely forever, but chuno, you know. Yeah. So today I will be covering brushes, mostly just like this technical shit on the side, and basically like custom brushes and, you know, all that fancy stuff that you need to know when going about those brushes and just kind of knowing what they mean. Because when I first got SAI, I had no idea what the hell those meant. I just knew what these meant, and that's about it. Everything else was like a giant mystery to me. So, yeah. And a lot of these things were quite a mystery to me up until now, and I still don't understand them. But hopefully we can kind of figure this out. Yeah. And so yeah, I'll basically just be going over that thing, and then at the end I will be showing the brushes that I use the most, and explaining just stuff. So yeah, let's get right into it. And so the first that we're going to cover are the brush types that we can get in Paint Tool SAI. So we have the pencil, airbrush, brush, watercolor, marker, and eraser. These are basically just the defaults, like when you let me just get a blank cube here. Yeah. When you have like so if you press any one of these are the defaults that you will get. And then after that you have this little bar thing that you see up here, which basically controls the kind of fuzziness of the brush. So this one's the hardest, this one then goes softer and softer, and then it goes like airbrushy and like really fuzzy. And then after that, I hadn't put it. So as you have like layer modes over here, you also have kind of the brush modes. And for the airbrush and the pencil, you only have two modes, which is normal and then multiply. And then the brush and the watercolor, and I think the marker. Yeah, and the marker. I don't know why I haven't put it here, I'm sorry. So those, in addition to having normal and multiply, they have vivid and deep. So what the multiply does is, as the name states, it acts like the multiply layer right here, and it multiplies the color of the brush that you have. So let's just go to like this is a pencil. Yeah, this is a pencil. So we have the normal, and then multiply, and then you see it multiplies it. It really looks more like shade rather than it does multiply, because I feel like this is too intense to be to be multiply, but it's right up shade's alley. Yeah, if you know what that mean by the layer modes. If you don't know the layer modes, I will set a link to my last Paint Tool SAI tutorial thing, where I kind of go into detail a little bit during that thing. I'll put a timestamp. I'm pretty sure there's timestamp on the videos. Anyway, besides the point, moving on. So yeah, after that, for brush, watercolor, and marker, we have vivid and deep, and I can't see too much of a difference most of the time with vivid and deep. I guess with vivid you get like more saturated colors or something. I'm not sure. I can't entirely tell the difference, or if there is a difference. I mean, obviously there has to be a difference if it's the two options that are there. But anyway, so basically what that does is, as you can see here, I've kind of like done this weird shape thing, but I guess you can't really tell all that much. So this is our this is our original color, right? And then we put it on vivid, and then it goes slightly from original color, and as we press more and kind of just really go into it, it becomes like a deeper and richer color. But it doesn't look exactly like the like multiply. So let's just put on multiply. Oh, I guess with this brush it does, but yeah, I don't know. I thought there was a difference, but there's like very slight differences in hue. So you can see this is kind of a little darker, and this one's a little lighter. And then I guess deep has a deep just makes it deep, I guess. That's just that. You see, I still get confused about these. Like, they're quite strange, and I don't use them often. Not really. I find them useless. Sometimes I'll use them. Most of the time I will not. They're confusing to me. Or not confusing, but kind of inconvenient, because I like to color pick a lot while I'm doing that stuff, and then having that being vivid or deep all the time is annoying. So I'm like, nah. So yeah, moving on to this stuff over here. As you can see, I've kind of put down little notes. So size, this thing is just, it shows you the size of the brush, and then the minimum size is how small your brush can be. So if you see at the edge over here how it swooshes out, that's its minimum size, like, or not its minimum size, but if you have, because the brush weight, if your brush is set to that kind of stuff, and if you're using a tablet, it is obviously pressure sensitive, and oftentimes the weight of the brush is affected by that. And by the weight, I mean just, you know, how big and how small it goes. So if we put the minimum size up, it will halt at that size. So if it's at 50%, it's gonna be 50% of whatever, blah blah. And then if it's like at 100%, it just has no, like, it will not go any lower than the maximum brush size, if that makes any sense. So yeah, usually I like to keep mine at between 0 and 50, sometimes 100 if I have a different brush like shape. For example, if I have a brush that's a bar, like bar 1, bar 2, whatever, I will like to have it at maximum, just because I feel like it loses the effect if it's smaller. But anyway, that's the point. Density is basically like kind of like the brush opacity. As you can see, smaller density, the less it's like opaque and stuff. Just take that off. Oh yeah, I didn't go into brush size or anything before. So we have brush shape and then brush texture. And the difference between these two is, let's go over them first. So brush shape is the shape of the brush, and then brush texture is basically the texture of the brush. So the difference between these two is that, okay, let's go to something that both of these have. So let's go to, I think it was noise. That was the same in both of these. And you can edit these in your SAI file. Like the actual file that contains SAI, like with .xbt blah blah. I don't know the technicality of those things, but it's there. I might make a video on it one day, because it's quite confusing to install different textures and brush shapes onto SAI, and sometimes it's weird, but yeah, another video for another time. So let's just scroll down here and look for noise. Where are you? There it is. Noise 1. Okay, let's do that. So if I drag along like this, so like if I, go on the canvas, you can see like all this texture around, but you can see that it's kind of fixated and like set, like it's already on the canvas. It's already got like its own little preset thing of how it is. You can see like it's just like a repeated pattern of, it's just the texture. But if we set noise to be if we set it to be the brush shape instead of the brush texture, you can see that there isn't a set texture on the canvas, but there is a set texture around the brush. And this is on multiply for some reason. Who knows? I'll just leave it on multiply. Oh, look guys, we used it. So you see there isn't, like, the texture isn't set. You're not gonna get the same texture in the same spot. Like, let's say I'll do this, right? I'll drag along here. And if I drag along here again, it's not the same. It's just, it's like, it's the brush shape and not the brush texture. So I hope that made sense. So moving on, next we have these things. So for blending, dilution, and persistence, you only have those for the marker and the brush and the watercolor brush. For airbrush and pencil, you don't have these options. But yeah, that's the point. Watercolor has the addition of smoothing piers, and what basically that does is how much it'll blur and smooth it out as, like, I don't know why I said piers. I read PRS. I'm pretty sure that stands for pressure. I'm not sure. So yeah, it's kind of the blur brush that you get with SAI, like at the beginning. It's kind of what the blur brush goes off of. The higher the smoothing thingy is, obviously, as you can see here, the higher it'll, like, the dilution thingy is. So yeah. Next we're going on to blending, and as it says here, it dictates how much it'll blend with the surrounding color and, like, just its surroundings. This is also connected if you have the blend checked, It just kind of helps it. It'll work even if you don't have the blend checked, but it very much helps it blend properly. This is just for like just how the brush kind of acts initially with like the intensity of the blending of how much it can blend. As you can see, this is from 100 blend, and then 70, 50, 20, and 0. And then next we have dilution, which basically is how, I would say it's how, obviously it's opacity, the opacity of the brush, but it also kind of connects with blending. All of these obviously are just connected to each other, sort of. It's basically just kind of how strong the brush is, how much ink there is in it if you want. Yeah, that's just that. And then persistence is how persistent the brush is when you're like drawing and stuff. Obviously, as it goes down, the persistence is less because it's not as it doesn't handle the bleed through as much. And those are these things. And then after that, we have the advanced settings. So with pencil and airbrush, you don't get the option to have like a blend thingy, but with a brush, watercolor, marker, and the eraser, you do have the options to have a blending thing. So yeah, so first we'll go on to the quality, and this is there's very minimal kind of effect as you look at it like head on, unless you like really like look into it. So fastest has the sharpest line, and fourth has the smooth line, and it also kind of affects how the brush goes as a like stroke and stuff. Like this is kind of connected with the stabilizer, I do believe, because as you can see here, it says in parentheses fastest. So when you have it on fastest, it'll oh my gosh, I need to get these textures off. It'll go like, it feels fast and the line feels fast, but as you have it higher, it feels a little more control, a little more smoother. And the stabilizer kind of has an effect on that, because obviously lower stabilizer, less stable the brush is in terms of like smoothing stuff. So yeah, that's that. And then you have these 4 options down here. So density is if the like opacity kind of thing is checked on or off. So basically, if we zoom in right here, you can see as the brush kind of like fades out, it has the opacity density thing fade out. But here it doesn't. It just stays a solid, and you can even tell like at the brush like edge of it that there's like quite the difference. This is a lot softer than this one that doesn't have density checked on. And then after that we have size, which this is connected directly to. So if we take size off, this won't matter, it'll turn gray. So yeah, basically again, just depending on how hard you press, and obviously this stuff here, depending on how hard you press, that's how bigger or smaller the brush will get. But if you have that off, it just won't apply. And then here, blend, pretty self-explanatory. If the blending option is ticked or not. Like I said, this will work regardless. Let me just get like a brush. So this is a brush that has blend ticked and has blending. So obviously it blends. I got whatever options thingies I have there. And if I tick blend off, it'll still blend, as you can see, just not as much or like it used to. Even then, there's like the changes are minimal. I don't need to press as much to get the solid color there. But if I have it on, it takes a little longer and the blending is more prevalent. So yeah, that's that. And then we'll go on to these really quickly. The edge hardness, minimum density, maximum density pressure, and then hard and soft. Basically, hard and soft is let me go to this. So I would like my things to be normal again. Thank you very much. There we go. So this kind of is a little, so it's kind of how the brush reacts to stuff. So if this is for the pressure sensitivity on your tablet, so if it's on hard, it like the harder you press, like it's just a little more it's more pressure sensitive. the harder it is. As you can see, like this is the one size, and I'm going like in all directions. As you can see, like this is at 250. This is the maximum size, and then as I go slower and slower, it's just woof. This is connected also to the size thingy here. Obviously, you can see it's more connected to it, and as it goes up, it kind of is a little more consistent with it, and the brush kind of thing that it does with the pen pressure and stuff, it gets a little more lost, and it's a little harder to get the very thin lines that you wanted to, like once upon a time. So you just have to press really softly, and you still get like the brush thingy. If I'm making sense, because I'm saying thingy and stuff a lot. Let me just get rid of all of that. And then the max density is just how much it's minimum density, sorry, not max, is just how much it's allowed to be dense. So basically going on back to this, so it's basically in the same principle as the minimum size thingy, except applied to the density. And then max density pressure thingy is kind of like the hard soft thing, except, you know, density, and it's got to do with your pen tablet thingy and the pressure and how much you press and how much you not press and yada yada yada, all that stuff. So that's basically the basics of brushes and kind of how they go about. Yeah, that's kind of just that stuff. You can play around with them, just kind of, usually when I make a new brush, depending on my needs, because usually I like more painterly and more blendy brushes, I will just make a default brush and then just click around and then check around how that works, and then kind of shape it around that and mold it. Or if I have a brush that I like but I want it a little different or tweaked, obviously I'll just do that. So moving on to my brushes, the ones that I use, I have them laid out right here. Some of these are mine. I think most of these, except for the last two, are mine, because I think I got these two from a friend, and I'm pretty sure this one is just their brush settings for, I think, their line art, but I use it as a Copic brush, and I don't even know if they're the same settings anymore, because I think I've played around with it a lot, but yeah, still, I will, yeah. Anyway, so this one is my main brush, which I use for literally everything. I use it for sketching, I use it for line art, I use it for coloring, flat colors, cell shading, blending. I use this brush for just about everything and anything. I kind of look at these brushes as kind of you have your primary brushes and then your support brushes, and that being the primary brushes being the ones that you kind of primarily use in like line art and kind of do the hard edge thingies, and then the secondary or support brushes are the ones that kind of help along with the effect. So I would kind of put this blend because it's not as persistent or anything. You can't do like an entire drawing, or I guess you can if you try really hard, but kind of it's a little more difficult in the support category rather than in the main category, because I don't use it to color. I use it to blend and kind of mush the colors together. Same with the flat bristle and the Gaussian blur, because that just kind of assists in the painting instead of doing the painting, if that makes any sense. And then the Copic is just weird. It's just kind of depending on your needs and how you use it. Anyway, so like I was saying, my main brush is, I just use it for just about anything and everything. It is just there. I use this brush for everything. Next, I have my blend brush, which is my watercolor brush, and if I'm not mistaken, I think this is just the default watercolor brush. Let me see. Yeah, it's basically just the default watercolor brush, and I love the default watercolor brush. It's great. I mostly use it for skin and just for blending colors in general, but just a lot for skin. It's very soft and it just blends so well. It's so nice. Anyway, next I have my sketch brush, which is kind of similar to my main brush, practically identical, but I do play around with the density a lot with this brush, and I don't really use it for painting or anything because I just find the texture a little weird along with the brush shape. But I do love it for doodles and stuff, and it just feels very, very soft and very like, just very, very soft and very nice, very kind of chunky, if that makes any sense. And then we have my flat or bristle brush because depending on what I want to use it for, I'll either have it on any of the bristle settings or any of the bar settings or flat settings, just so it has like this nice flat thing. And it's basically just a really blendy brush that I like to use sometimes for like a little more textured things. So if I want something to look a little more blocky or something a little more whatever the bristle is, just it's a very nice effect. And then Gaussian blur is just it's basically just a blur. You see, it blurs things without making them look weird. I know the what you call it, the blur brush that you originally start out with is a little weird in my opinion, and it takes too much of the surrounding color around and kind of just really makes it weird, almost airbrushy, or not airbrushy, I don't know, it just makes it look kind of ugly, smudgy, and instead of blur, where this is in a better sense a nicer blur. It's, you know, that's why it's called a Gaussian blur. Like yeah, because I used to have to go into Photoshop to do these things, and sometimes I'd get lazy, but this one's just really convenient to just have on the go. It's very nice, very nice. If obviously you press this one, you have to press just quite lightly for it to work very nicely, because if you press hard, sometimes it'll kind of pick up on the bar thing, and if you put the density down, the less impactful the like blur is. So let's have it on like a 20, right? And that's the blur here. That's it. That's the blur. And yeah, you can press harder for it, but it just looks a little weird. But as you go up, it, you know, it gets better. And yeah, that. And then the Copic is just, you know, kind of your standard marker brush. I just kind of use this for shading when I'm doodling, or blush or stuff like that, and you know, things akin to that. Here you have just kind of, I think I just went over these. I think I said for all of them which one they were. If I didn't, here they are. This is the brush type that they are, and yeah, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. I hope you understand brushes a wee bit more now. And yeah, I've been wanting to make this for a while because I really love brushes. Brushes are one of the most important things that you can get because, you know, it's the thing that you use and that you draw with, so you need them. Yes. Also, another thing I forgot to point out, your stabilizer affects your brush very much. For example, this my main brush, look how nice and smooth it is with like S5 stabilizer. Then look how weird it is with like a 5 stabilizer. It's like, oof, alright, cool. And these can be used to get vastly different effects with all your brushes. So make sure to also try out your stabilizer when using different brushes, because it can be very much affected by it. Maybe sometimes it won't, sometimes it will. Either way. Yeah, I hope this was helpful. I hope that I wasn't just rambling, like, not being understood, being really weird. Hope I explained things properly. Yeah, that's about it. I'ma hop out. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.